Nigeria's GDP grows by 3.46% in third quarter of 2024. Achieving medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy 2025 to 2027 tops agenda as National Assembly and economic team share ideas. Federal government directs adoption of high-end technology to combat crimes.
And AI presents a vista of opportunities for us to address issues on agriculture, on healthcare, on financial inclusion, and on security issues.
Hello and thank you for joining us on the Network News on NTA. I'm Naja'atu Tijani. And joining me from Lagos is Hingino John Adams. Remember that this broadcast is being streamed live on our website, nta.ng/live, and do follow us across social media as well. And now the news in detail. Nigeria's gross domestic product has grown by 3.46% in the third quarter of 2024, up from 3.19% as unemployment rate drops to 4.3%, all in second quarter. Musa Abubakar reports.
This data by the National Bureau of Statistics says that gross domestic product had reached 20.12 trillion naira in real terms. Growth was driven by the services sector, contributing 53.58% to GDP. Key contributors include crop production, 26.51%, trade, 14.78%, and telecommunication, 13.94%, with the non-oil sector accounting for 94.43% of GDP. The oil sector grew by 5.17%, with production at 1.47 million barrels per day. Meanwhile, unemployment rate dropped to 4.3% in second quarter 2024 from 5.3% in first quarter, according to the NBS. Labor force participation rose to 79.5%, with rural areas 83.2%, surpassing urban areas 77.2%. Youth unemployment, ages 15 to 34, was 6.5%. The highest wage employment fell to 14.4%, while informal employment increased to 93%. Time-related underemployment declined to 9.2%.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu is assuring Nigerians of better economic output as the economy continues to expand following the newly released third quarter gross domestic product report by the National Bureau of Statistics. In a statement, the special advisor to the president on Media and Public Communications, Sunday Dari, notes that the growth in GDP shows the administration's quest for a more robust economy and, by extension, a better standard of living for Nigerians is on course, as the 3.46% growth indicates Nigeria is recovering from unintended effects of the reforms. President Tinubu's administration, the statement indicates, has not and will never forget the promise of a $1 trillion economy by 2030. The latest GDP growth in the third quarter is driven by key sectors such as agriculture, transport, education, health, real estate, finance and insurance, ICT, trade and manufacturing, an indication that the reforms initiated by the present administration to reposition the economy and ensure better fiscal management are beginning to yield fruit. The proposed tax reforms also indicate the administration's resolve to reduce the tax burden on small businesses and spread prosperity to the poor. The new tax regime seeks to promote equity by reducing what is known as the headquarters effect, a situation where host states of company headquarters get more benefits because their taxes for the whole nation are remitted in favor of spatial and demographic equity. Now joining NTA News to give a better perspective on the latest gross domestic product and the Nigerian Labour Force Survey is the Director, Institute of Capital Market Studies at the Nasarawa State University, Professor Uche Waleke. Welcome, Professor.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Now, Professor, in the second quarter, just a few months ago, to be precise, you were in our studios to explain the performance of Nigeria's economy when the GDP grew to 3.19% in the second quarter. Now it has jumped to 3.46% in the third quarter. What happened and what does it mean for the different sectors?
Well, I think it's cheering news to start with that we've had consistent real GDP growth rates since the first quarter. Recall the first quarter came in at 2.98%. Second quarter, as you rightly mentioned, 3.19%, and then now we are witnessing 3.46%. So one can say, it's been consistent. So, and if this trend continues, you should expect that the fourth quarter of 2024 will even witness further expansion, again in line with trend. If you look at the trend of GDP growth rate since 2019 in particular, apart from 2021, you will notice this kind of trend. You will notice that usually at the end of the year, you find the economy expanding, of course, in line with expectations, because the end of the year is when you expect expansion in economic activities. So it's sharing that we've had this, as I said, over the last 3 quarters. And particularly so when you find the non-oil sector, appearing to do well. The same thing with transport. You saw what happened in the case of transport. The transport sector, had a quantum leap from a negative 13% in Q2 to a positive 12% in Q3. We also witnessed improvements in education, and health sector. The human capital sectors also experienced improvement. And if you could link this to, again, the performance of even inflation rates in July and August, because that's also within the third quarter, we noticed some moderation, in inflation rates, down from 34% in June, we had 33 in July and 32, in August. And again, we also saw that even the unemployment rate now, although for second quarter, the NBA is also reporting, a decline from 5.3 in first quarter to 4.3 in second quarter. So you now find that anytime you have this increase in GDP growth rate, you should also expect that, other things being equal, unemployment rate, will drop. So I think it's something cheering, and it needs to be sustained.
So let's quickly talk about, to wrap up, let's quickly talk about this unemployment rate now. Concerns remain about the data collection process. What do you think about it? How accurate? People are asking this question, that how credible are these figures?
Yes, of course, in relation to the unemployment figure, it's obvious that the MBS, changed methodology, and then we noticed this sudden drop in figures. As people will tell you that they don't appear to, reflect what we have on ground. But let me also quickly say this. I've said, yes, that GDP growth rate has been on the rise, but my concern, is more on the quality of the growth. It's not just about GDP growing, but what is the quality of that growth, And that is where I think the government should pay more attention, The quality of the growth that is in favor, for example, of services. Take, for example, the Q3 GDP growth rate. The banking and the financial sector, banking and insurance, grew by over 30%, And then compare that with the growth in the productive sectors, in the real sectors. Manufacturing sector is still weak at just 1.4%. Sorry, it's even 0.9%. Agric 1.4%. So if you take these two, particularly for manufacturing, you see that manufacturing has been on the decline since quarter one. So this tells you that the economic headwinds we have had, particularly the high rate of interest rate environment, and also the high exchange rates, have not been rubbing off positively on this sector. So it's important that going forward, the government, both the fiscal and monetary authorities should pay more attention to the productive sectors, to the agri sector, which contributed, by the way, 29%, to GDP in the last quarter. So agri sector and manufacturing sectors are very important. If the increase in GDP, if we must see it reflect on the lives of the ordinary Nigerian, because at the end of the day, it's not just the number that matters. It is the welfare of the people, that counts. And I think that can happen when we focus more attention on manufacturing and agriculture. Come to think of it, the financial sector, what's the job elasticity? How many people are employed in the banks? So no matter how much this sector grows, it may not really reflect in the lives of the ordinary Nigerians. So manufacturing is important, agriculture, very key, and that should be our focus.
Thank you very much, Professor. I've been speaking with Professor Uche Waleke, Professor of Capital Markets, on Nigeria's GDP growth. And of course, the professor says the country should focus more on manufacturing and the production sectors. Thank you, Professor.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now, the plan to achieve the proposals contained in the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy Paper 2025 to 2027 is being discussed at an interactive session with stakeholders expressing confidence in achieving the projections. The National Assembly Joint Committee convened the session where the Minister of Finance, 2 other cabinet ministers and heads of revenue-generating agencies said the current economic performance informed the 47.9 trillion Naira 2025 budget proposal. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The interaction is part of the foundation laying for the 2025 budget and fiscal plans for the next 3 years.
The National Assembly is unwavering in its commitment to fostering an economy that will make Nigeria a beacon of prosperity in Africa and beyond.
We can build a resilient fiscal framework capable of supporting our developmental aspirations.
Only in the interest of this country, and this country must move forward.
The economic team is confident that, going by performance of revenue-generating agencies thus far, the 34.82 trillion Naira revenue projection is achievable.
Under His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigeria has changed fundamentally so that productivity would increase, so that the economy would grow, jobs will be created, and poverty reduced.
The AKK project too would bring up companies along the corridor.
We've generated a total of 5,352 billion. For 2025, it is projected that we will expect to make an increase of 20%.
In general, we've exceeded all the targets set for non-oil tax, which is attestation to the impact of the reform being led by Mr. President, that the diversification of our economy from oil is yielding.
Concerns were, however, raised on the 2025 deficit as stakeholders called for mechanisms to block leakages for accountability.
Efficiency in electricity is critical to whatever you are going to do.
We are now in November on the verge of receiving another budget. Level of implementation of the budget remains at dismal 30%.
Suggestions were also made on the need to unlock more revenue sources to avoid borrowing. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Still on data and projections, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has given clarification about its crude oil production figures, explaining that there is no discrepancy between its crude oil production figures and the ones supplied by the regulatory agency, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Company. The clarification comes amidst reports in sections of the media that the 1.54 million barrels per day for September cited by the NUPRC is far below the 1.8 million barrels per day for November 2024 cited by the NNPC Limited. A statement by Chief Corporate Communications Officer NNPC Limited, Olufemi Shoneye, indicates the seeming disparity is as a result of the difference in the period of coverage, stressing that NNPC Limited's figure stems from the peak production for October 2024, while the NUPRC figure is the average production for September 2024, as confirmed by Chief Executive Officer of the NUPRC, Benga Komolafe. The NUPRC CEO confirmed this at the recent 42nd Nigerian Association of Petroleum Exploration Collaborationist Annual International Conference and Exhibition in Lagos, where he disclosed that Nigeria's crude oil output, including condensate, increased by 16.56% to 1.8 million barrels per day in October 2024 from 1.54 million barrels per day in September 2024. There is therefore no disparity or discrepancy in the production figures by NNPC Limited and the regulator, which are working closely with relevant stakeholders to boost production to 2 million barrels per day and above by the end of 2024. The 10th National Industrial Labour Relations Summit, organized by the Michael Imodu National Institute for Labour Studies, is to open in Ilorin, Kwara State. The Director General of the Institute, Comrade Isa Aremu, says the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Nkiru Kamyejucha, and Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Governor Abdurrahman Abdurrazak of Kwara State, will serve as hosts. Comrade Aremu says the summit is part of efforts to set an agenda for industrial harmony in the country and engender peace, increase productivity, as well as boost economic development in the country. The federal government has directed the adoption of technology-driven strategies to combat terrorism, cybercrime and border security challenges facing Nigeria and the entire African continent. Vice President Kashim Shettima gave the directive during a courtesy visit by members of the Executive Intelligence Management Course 17 from the National Institute for Security Studies. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
Africa and Nigeria are currently navigating some of the most troubling times in areas of security and economy, and the challenges require innovative solutions, and artificial intelligence presents a vista of opportunities. Referencing Franklin D. Roosevelt's famous words, Vice President Kashim Shettima urged resilience, saying the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
And AI presents a vista of opportunities for us to address issues on agriculture, on healthcare, on financial inclusion, and on security issues. And I believe, I'm an eternal optimist, I believe most of these things are doable. Africa is the youngest continent. The average age of the Nigerian nation is 16.9. And we have a pool of technologically savvy young men that we can harness, in spite of challenges in terms of inadequate infrastructure, in terms of skill gaps, energy challenges. But while there is the will, there is always the way.
He highlighted the successful implementation of security measures by the governor of Enugu State, stating he has effectively curbed the excesses of those exploiting security vacuum to cause havoc, which he said is a testament to what can be achieved with the right strategies. Commandant National Institute for Security Studies, Joseph Obulu Odama, lauded the success of the Executive Intelligence Management Course 17, which commenced in February 2024 with 91 participants from Nigeria's military, paramilitary, federal and state ministries, and 5 African countries. The theme of the course is Artificial Intelligence and Emerging Economies in Africa, Challenges and Prospects. Since its inception, the Institute has graduated 961 participants, significantly enhancing national security strategies and international cooperation. From the State House, Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
We're going on a commercial break next, but when we return, activism to end gender. Before we talk gender-based violence, let's talk health. And enhancing Nigeria-India investment relations in healthcare is next, with an Indian healthcare group, Padiat Healthcare, earmarking $100 million worth of investment in Nigeria's healthcare sector. Lydia Sampson has the details.
The visit of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Abuja is to help strengthen bilateral cooperation between Nigeria and India. This is already yielding positive results, as Padiat Healthcare Chairman Dr. Hazim Rahman Padiat announced plans to revolutionize healthcare in Nigeria during an address by visiting Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Abuja. The investment, when completed, will enable Nigerians access world-class hospital at affordable costs. To this effect, the company is set to commission a world-class hospital in Abuja as part of the long-term investment drive of the Indian company in the country. The first in series of investment is the Padiat Mayfield Hospital, a 300-bed tertiary care hospital which has been constructed in Sun City Estate, Galadima, Abuja. When inaugurated, it will be Nigeria's largest private sector hospital. He told the visiting Indian Prime Minister that the hospital brings in advanced diagnostic equipment like 3T MRI, 256-slice CT scan machine, which will be the first of its kind in Western Africa, along with cardiac cath lab, 24 super specialty centers of excellence, 25-bedded intensive care unit operation theater in emergency department, in addition to the operation theater complex in the third floor, which can be life-saving in times of emergency. The center will be a full-fledged cancer hospital with equipment like PET scan, linear accelerator, and gamma knife. Lydia Samson, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Muhammad Ali Pate, has detailed ongoing initiatives aimed at accelerating malaria elimination in Nigeria. Dr. Pate explains that the malaria vaccine will be rolled out this month, beginning with states hard hit by malaria in the country. The coordinating minister made this known to Nigerians during a meeting with members of the Independent Advisory Group on Malaria Elimination in Nigeria in Abuja, highlighting recent achievements, including the mass distribution of mosquito nets, receipt of R21 malaria vaccines, and advancement in funding plans and treatment mechanisms across the country.
We know the immunization system, the health system, how you've tried to bring it on its own with different, whatever you've been putting. But here it seems as if it's coming together, everything in one. It's one plan, it's one report, it's one budget, it's one everything.
And from the R21 vaccine, we talk AIDS next. And it's been 43 years since the first case of HIV was recorded in Nigeria. Yet, the fight against the disease is still an unfinished business. But the National Agency for the Control of AIDS is tying up loose ends by enhancing HIV response to stop mother-to-child transmission. Salwa Khalil Ibrahim tells us more.
UNAIDS report shows that an estimated 160,000 children aged 0 to 14 are either born or living with HIV/AIDS, with 22,000 new infections and 15,000 AIDS-related deaths each year, with funding identified as a major challenge in preventing mother-to-child transmission.
So a lot is being done to ensure that we can find all the pregnant women, test all of them, link those who are positive, to treatment, and then report all. So in doing so, I think we'll address to ensuring that no one is left behind.
In commemoration of World AIDS Day, NACA and its partners are reflecting on the journey in breaking neonatal chain of transmission, as well as upgrading response mechanisms, especially among marginalized communities.
This year, we are placing special emphasis on stopping AIDS among our children, as well as raising consciousness on sustainability and ownership of the HIV response.
The target here is towards ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. In Abuja, Salwa Khalil Ibrahim, NTA News.
A new dawn is on the horizon for Conjoined Twins as professionals from around the world are driving conversations aimed at meeting their health and social needs. At the first World Conjoined Twins Day holding in Riyadh, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Abubakar Akwanga reports that the King Salman Humanitarian and Relief Center is setting the scene for the paradigm shift.
It is a fresh start for another round of experts' debate on the future of Conjoined Twins, and Princess Mai and Anne Manzo, a third-year college students, are separated Conjoined Twins and brought to the stage as a testimony of a broken barrier. Today, they are physically separated and could stand side by side with a middle party and eat from a different plate, even as they remain siblings of same fortunes. Just like them, many in this hall share the same testimony that calls for global action in the management and prevention of such medical circumstance that comes with heavy financial burden. Gopal Mitra is a global lead on disability and development with UNICEF and shared his thoughts on tackling such health cases, putting King Salman's name on the marble.
For us in UNICEF, it is important that every child, everywhere, have the opportunity to survive and thrive. When we mean thrive, not only survive for sure, yes, but to also lead meaningful lives and realize their full potential.
Nigeria is not left out, as Dr. Yusuf Nadabu, a former lecturer with the Faculty of Medicine, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, said the country has vast knowledge and experience to key into scientific diversities with results in sight.
That here in Nigeria, we also have highly skilled, specialized pediatric surgeons who had performed wonderful surgeries, like Professor Awal Abubakar of Federal Medical Center, Yola, who had successfully separated 3 conjoined twins.
9 agreements has been signed, and all of them serve the children, whether conjoined twin or children in different areas. One of them, for example, fighting polio in Afghanistan. Second, supporting children in area of health and water and sanitation in Gaza.
Teams of experts at the Saudi Arabia International Conference on Conjoined Twins, now concluding in Riyadh, agreed that conjoined twins can be diagnosed using routine ultrasound as early as 7 to 12 weeks of pregnancy, and suggest care and psychological support when scoliosis, cerebral palsy, or learning disabilities occur at a later stage. In Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, Abubakar Akwanga, NTA News.
Back home in Nigeria, Ogali community in Rivers State has staged a peaceful protest seeking improved work and more engagement concerning the ongoing remediation work. Ijoma Ugweke reports.
It's your work at the ongoing cleanup exercise by hydrocarbon remediation projects, HYPREP, in several communities affected by oil spillage is raising issues in Ogali community, Eleme local government area. The concerns emanate from poorly regulated remediation work. Consequently, community members are agitating for proper civil reinforcement at the excavated sites to prevent collapse of buildings that may be erected around the areas in the future. They call for implementation of their terms, requiring HYPREP to stop backfilling the excavated lands, which would hinder construction of planned buildings.
All over this area, no spillage. They just come and dig, fill back without reinforcement.
There is a place they said they work, said they do clean up. 6 years ago, we cannot find there anymore.
I said that we should bring civil engineer, that they will bring civil engineer and look at it. And we expected that before they further to excavate to do that kind of damage they cost, and their civil engineer and others, a team, review a sustainable measure to the excavator point there. Then they said that they came there to do the job there. They ought to take responsibility or give government a better recommendation.
Head of Communications, HYPREP, says the company is committed to the required standards of remediation work in all sites mapped out for cleanup exercise in Ogali.
This project is in Kana, is in Gokana, is in Tai, is Nilime. And so we have to ensure that if we are going into an MOU, it is such that is feasible, it is such that is implementable, it is such that is practical. So the MOU is a a document that will have to be very, very painstaking in putting pen to paper. Our integrity, because this is a community project, and we say it every now and then, we are dealing with community people, we will not tell you what we can do.
The remediation sites were age-long farmlands of the people of Ogale community in Eleme local government area. From Eleme, Ijomu Gweke, NTA News.
Now let's talk about community activities of a different kind. Abuja is often referred to as the seat of power. But who says it can't be the seat of fun and entertainment? And for the first time in almost a decade, the Abuja International Carnival has re-emerged and served the city and people with a great experience. With Indomie on ground to feed the energy of fun-loving Nigerians, Daniel Aderie was there for all the sights and sounds at the official launch and tells us more.
Unifying power on display here the direction of we can achieve when we work together.
After so many years of little or no excitement, it was time for the nation's capital to experience a spark from the old norm, and what better way to do it if not through a street party, the Abuja International Street Carnival.
We noticed that we need to bring people close together, you understand, so that they can feel Indomie in a bigger way this time around. No, and this is not the first one we'll be doing. Subsequent one that will be coming for International Carnival, we also participate also, so that they actually know that Indomie is always there for them, to show them some love.
This is my first time from Abuja.
Oh, really? So what's the experience like for you?
I am very, very happy.
So you are enjoying the carnival so far?
Yes. By this time next year, I wish to be here.
The kids were not left out, as they too saw the children beam with boldness and strength as they jumped, wriggled and swayed to beats of cultural heritage.
So it's marrying those moments where you're gathering children together and culture, because at essence, culture is your way of your life, right? And how do people live, right? We've seen different children today in their different cultural attires, displaying different things from different parts of Nigeria, right? And in essence, that's what Indomie is all about. 8
states are represented at this year's carnival, including the FCT. In Abuja, Daniel Aderie, NTA News.
Now let's join a centre well known for hosting events and carnivals as well. That's Lagos, and Hingino is standing by with more news. Hingino?
Thank you, Naja'atu, and welcome to Lagos. The Federal Ministry of Education is set to commence implementation of key policies that will address learning crisis in the sector, especially at the basic education level. Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, made this known at a 3-day National Basic Education Review meeting organized by the ministry with the theme Improving Access to Inclusive Quality Education for All Children in Nigeria, addressing the challenges of out-of-school children.
Disturbed by the alarming figures of over 10.2 million out-of-school children, the federal government of Nigeria is set to tackle the issue.
Addressing the challenges.
Hence, this boot camp, organized by the Federal Ministry of Education, has brought key players across the country to share best practices, address gaps, and forge partnerships to strengthen basic education.
Last week, we had the course to hand over 22,000 out-of-school children moved from Abuja.
Education for a renewed hope is at the front burner of government at all levels to create a befitting future for our children and, in effect, have a positive impact on our society.
Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, believes the quality of professionals in attendance will propel the desired changes.
The Federal Ministry of Education is already implementing the government's policy on this through
the activities of 4 of its agencies and bilateral development partners, while supporting the takeoff and, of course, the activities of the newly created Nigerian and out-of-school Children Education Commission. And already from our reports to the presidency, over 2 million children have been brought back to school.
The meeting also reviews progress made from last year with aim to make better decisions in subsequent years.
Talking agriculture now, farmers are set to lose up to 40% of harvest annually due to inadequate post-harvest and handling and lack of proper storage. These losses amount to around 3.5 trillion naira, or roughly $9 billion. Some farmers across the agricultural value chain advocate collaborative support for sustainable innovation in tackling these challenges and food security. Amaka O reports.
Nigeria is ranked high for food wastage among other African countries, with data from the Agricultural Food Organization showing that approximately 20% of grains, 30% of tubers, and 50% of fruits and vegetables go bad due to insufficient storage and logistics systems. Lagos State, by its topography with lesser arable land when compared to other southwestern states, also has a thriving fisheries and animal husbandry subsector. The state government, on its part, put in place storage facilities for the preservation of grains. Stakeholders also prefer other viable options from other climes in reducing post-harvest losses.
In India, in Sri Lanka, in Vietnam, Thailand, all of those countries are primed to emulate. They come up with very indigenous solutions, all right, to their problems. So, for instance, they have these evaporating cooling chambers that are made with charcoal or sometimes, clay, that can actually help reduce the temperature of a particular environment.
Value addition is very important. Technology is very important. Storage is very key. And more importantly, also infrastructure.
The major stakeholder in the industry of the agricultural value chain need to invest more. What do we need? We need more reserve. We need silo to reserve what we've been planted during the time we have the surplus heavy rain.
Food is one of the essential needs of man. Therefore, tackling problems that exist is essential for sustainability and adequate food security. In Lagos, Amaka O, NTA News.
That's it from Lagos Network News. We'll return after the break.
It's the Glow Festival of Joy, and it's raining exciting prizes. Oh, for 120 days, we take it to the max. Mind-blowing, loaded prizes.
Let's now talk activism against gender-based violence, and Speaker, House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas this Monday led a symbolic walk against gender-based violence in commemoration of this year's International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The walk brought together hundreds of participants, including lawmakers and members of the public, who marched from the National Assembly to the headquarters of the Nigeria Police Force. Speaker Abbas says it demonstrates the resolve of the National Assembly to demand decisive action to safeguard vulnerable populations and ensure accountability for perpetrators of gender-based violence.
The National Assembly will do everything humanly possible to ensure that all forms of violence against women and girls are drastically reduced, if not completely eliminated, in the very near future.
Demonstration of solidarity with victims of gender-based violence in the country culminated in the submission of a petition by the House of Representatives to the Inspector General of Police.
Justice. The House of Representatives, under the leadership of Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas and Right Honorable Benjamin Kalu, have united in one voice to say that there is no excuse for violence against our women and our girls.
It is a collective effort that we must all fight. We must all come together and put our actions together to eradicate this unacceptable reality now.
Now let's take another break. Stay tuned for more reports.
Available in convenient sachets.
Picking up where we left off, First Lady Oluremi Tinubu says collective action across all sectors of society is needed to aid reporting and timely prosecution of perpetrators of gender-based violence. This is contained in her statement marking this year's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The First Lady describes gender-based violence as one of the most widespread human rights violations against women worldwide, with harmful practices such as child marriage and female genital mutilation still prevalent and often justified by cultural or religious norms in Nigeria. The First Lady therefore calls for increased support for victims and survivors towards creating a safer environment for women and girls. Now, lots of interesting results in different sports this Monday at the 2nd African Military Games holding in Abuja. Francisca Pile has all the action.
Hello and welcome to the 2024 African Military Games update. I am Francisca Bile. Let's begin from the main bowl of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, the hub of athletics at the Games, with some track and field events already concluded. Opoku Dokas from Ghana won the women's long jump event with a remarkable jump of 6.18 meters. She was closely followed by Kibret Alimaheyo from Ethiopia and Onowo Miracle from Nigeria, finished in third place. In the women's 5,000 meters final, Wekuha Emmanuel of Ethiopia emerged winner with a remarkable time of 15 minutes 41 seconds. The 100 meters men's final was a thrilling display of speed and precision. Mishak Babu from Kenya clinched the gold medal with an impressive time of 10.57 seconds.
When I went to the block, I first tensed because of Ghanaians. There were two sharp sprinters. So I went there confidently knowing I'll fight for my country, and I did it.
Now to the Package B session of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium. Nigeria shrugged off their 3-1 loss to Algeria in their first match of the volleyball event at the indoor sport hall by recording a convincing straight sets victory over Sierra Leone, winning 25-17, 25-8 and 25-13. Earlier, Algeria handed Ghana their second defeat in as many games, winning 3-0.
For the records, if we really want to grasp the gold medal, because we have a vision and a mission statement, our vision is to get the gold medal.
We went back to the drawing board and we actually looked at where we have loopholes. So we had a series of meetings and we corrected all those loopholes, and that was why you saw us coming out victorious today.
Monday also saw the conclusion of combat sports at the Games. In Taekwondo, Nigeria emerged as the overall winner, securing 15 gold medals, 4 silver medals and 3 bronze medals, as they received awards for the most valuable player and best coach, while Team Nigeria, despite their initial setback, recovered to impress in the boxing event.
This is my third African championship. The first one I won the bronze, the second one I won the silver, the third one I didn't win a medal, and here I am, the fourth one here, and I'm winning the gold medal. It's really a joyful moment for me.
Straight to the hockey pitch, where Team Nigeria ended their campaign in the archery event of the 2024 African Military Games on high, claiming a total of 13 medals, comprising 8 gold, 3 silver and 2 bronze medals. The Nigerian Armed Forces were unstoppable in the 20-meter and 30-meter babble in the male and female categories, as well as the 50-meter compound.
It's a great experience. It requires focus, precision, concentration, and presence of mind. And I think it paid off.
Team Nigeria dominated the badminton event as they had to compete among themselves for the available honors. The event was, however, not devoid of interesting action, which caught the attention of the Badminton Federation of Nigeria.
Most of the good players are being low by
military and paramilitary agency, which is also good for us.
In the tennis,
impressive results from the Nigerian military there, Francisca. Thank you. And that concludes the network news on NTA. Thanks for staying with us.